This week our hearts were just ripped out of our chests to think that our brothers and sisters in Charleston, South Carolina could be worshiping. The African Methodist Episcopal Church is a very historical church and plays very significantly in the history of this country. A time when people of color were not allowed to worship freely, even in sanctuaries. People of color, a lot of people might not know this, were in the Methodist Church relegated to the balcony if they could worship at all. The AME Church was born so that people of color could worship on the floor. So that we could gather and lift our hands and glorify God, the African Methodist Episcopal Church was established. This particular church is very historical to our history, played significantly through slavery. And yet, on a Wednesday night, hundreds of years after being put out of a church because of our color, our doors were open. And in the good-hearted nature that I think is inherent amongst most of us, not all of us, but most of us, we got a few cousins you got to watch out for every now and then. They opened their doors to this brother, regardless of color, regardless of age, regardless of kind. He is not a representation of white America. But this particular brother, for whatever reason, snatched down the lives of 9 people, and our hearts are broken. 9 people who showed Christian love at its highest peak or potential. My mind goes back to Aurora, when hundreds and hundreds of young people go into a theater to watch a movie, and some confused, disturbed person comes in and snatches her life away. Somebody called me, in fact, everybody called me on the planet, and they asked me, was I afraid to have church? I told them not only are we gonna have church, but our black members, our white members, and our brown members are gonna lift up the name of the Lord until he speaks from eternity. And we're gonna show you how to do this thing right. I said, we're gonna show you how to do this thing right. We're gonna show you how to do this thing right. And so I'm gonna ask the whole church to stand. We represent all races, all colors, all cultures, all kinds. I pray that more and more in America that every barrier and every wall and every hint and every stench of racism would be moved out of the way, all hatred. And these people of color who just wanted to love on this brother and show him Jesus, he stood up after listening at Bible class and praying with them and said, I came here to kill black people. I'm glad he said it, because had he not said it so vividly and so undeniably, they wouldn't have called it a hate crime. We'd have been arguing about it, but because he just came out and said it. I did an interview late last night, later than I wanted to, but I was up doing an interview. And the lady asked me, she said, it seems like the soul of America has grown dark. And she said, what will get rid of the hatred that is brewing in the underbelly of this country? And I told them, love will run hate home every day. To my many friends who are AME around the world, and many, many bishops in the AME church are personal friends of mine. My patriarchal family is all AME. All of my father's people for generations were AME. My mother's people were Baptists. My father's people were AME. We don't have to be AME to feel your pain. We don't have to live in Charleston to feel your pain. And I'm just going to call for a moment of silence for those 9 souls that are gone too soon.